Thanks. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I think that was a great session on responsiveness, and we are going to now move to discussing apps. We've got some great brand marketers here to talk about their use of apps. And Fiksu's Steve Bagdasarian is going to be moderating the session, so I will turn it over to him.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Always fun doing these in the afternoon, so hopefully the lull since lunch has gone away, and you guys are wide awake, because I'm very happy to have 3 awesome brands doing some amazing stuff in mobile, and specifically the app economy, and really interested to kind of dig into a lot of different points that I think we're going to be able to discuss in some pretty good detail today. So real quick, we'll do a round of intros. I'll let everybody introduce themselves, but I'll start with me. So Steve Bagdasarian, I manage business development and strategy at a company here in town called Fiksu. And if you're not familiar with Fiksu, we're the leading marketing automation technology company for app discovery. And we manage a large amount of data in the process. We founded here in the city several years ago, and since now have grown to about 230 people across 5 global offices and about 850 clients. So the app economy is healthy, and there's a lot of scale, and it's great to have a lot of that presence here in Boston. So I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Great. Hey, my name is Kevin Vine. I'm Senior Manager for Digital Strategy, Digital Platforms at Dunkin Brands, which is the parent company for Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins, located just outside of Boston in Canton, Mass. And in my role, I oversee all of the consumer-facing digital platforms, which is our website, dunkindonuts.com, our mobile platform, which the linchpin of which is our mobile app, and I'm also part of the social media team.
I'm Gabby Buerman. I work on mobile product at Rue La La. I've been with the company for about 3 years. How many of you have the Rue La La app? Know what Rue La La is? Everyone else get it? So we are an online flash sale site, which means limited time, limited inventory. If you're not in, when boutiques open, you miss out on those severely discounted Tory Burch or Gucci loafers. We have been in the mobile space from a mobile web perspective since 2009, and we launched our apps, iOS and Android mobile app, in 2010. Since then, mobile has grown to roughly 50% of our traffic, 50% of our revenue, most of our email opens, and it continues to grow, and it's landed us the number 11 spot on the 2014 Internet Retailer Mobile 500. We invest a lot in mobile, and we sort of don't think about it as mobile. We think about it as Rue. So my comments here today will speak to what it's like to integrate mobile into a brand and a B2C experience. So happy to be here. Thanks for staying.
Hi, everyone. My name is Feng Chang, and I'm a Director of Strategy and Analytics at Karmaloop. Karmaloop is the world's largest online retailer of streetwear. So if you're looking for some really cool running shoes or the latest tees, we're definitely your place to be. I work primarily on Plunder, which is our flash sale site division, just like Rue. So you can get streetwear up to 80% off through limited time sales as well. Mobile is a huge part of our company's growth and trajectory. We launched our mobile apps for iOS and Android in August 2012 across the company for both Karmaloop and Plunder and some of our adjacent brands as well. They've grown to be huge. For Plunder specifically, it's now over half of our traffic as well, north of 30% of our revenue. And for our very young demographic, this is just where they're at. We want to be with them anywhere, anytime. We want them to be able to browse us between classes, while on the trains, and it's just a great avenue for us to reach them wherever they are.
Awesome. So I think the best way that I like to start with this is, kind of get all of your perspective, if you don't mind just briefly touching on it. The key thing here is that the rise of the app, and it's interesting to think that, 10 years ago the industry didn't even exist, but the rise of the app has become definitely centric to business operations and mobile. And I think, like I said before, the 3 brands here have a very different take on what that means. But in our world, it's probably not an either or, right? It's not an app versus web strategy. It's a both. But with the app being so centric to the growth of business operations, Kevin, why don't we start with you? How is Dunkin and Dunkin Brands basically looking to invest, as the app as this strategic point within the marketing services?
Sure. It is definitely a pivotal part of the mobile, of the overall marketing strategy. And the mobile app, like you, we actually launched our app in August of 2012. Probably the key functionality of the app, aside from all of the things that you would expect to find, such as store locator, product information, et cetera, is the ability to pay. So it is a bottom line impactor for us. And in fact, we did just have our quarterly analyst call this morning, and our CEO did echo the fact that mobile and digital are going to continue to be pivotal to our overall marketing strategy. Our website's never going to go away. I think we're doing a lot of cool stuff with the .com. We're evolving it. I know the last session was about responsive design, so we're moving in that direction. We're in the process of building a social hub out, which is, another element, another part of the personality of our brand is that we're very social. And so we've got a passionate fan base, and we do leverage all of the digital platforms to showcase that, to celebrate the passion of our fans. But without question, mobile is taking on an increasing importance. And in fact, for those of you who are Dunkin' customers, know that we just launched a new loyalty program 3 months ago. And so even though the loyalty program can exist outside of the app, you can still earn loyalty points by using an old school plastic card. Obviously, the desire is to onboard as many people via the app as possible.
Yeah. And Gabby, you mentioned that it's not about the app, it's not about the site, it's Rue. What does that mean, though, in the sense of the app-centric world? I mean, the percentage of monetization, content, general company culture that you're trying to exude. How does the app fit into that?
Well, how many of you are brands out there? Are you B2C, B2C, B2B? And how many of you have an app? Interesting. So for us, it's appointment shopping. Limited time, limited inventory creates this need to be able to shop wherever you are. I start with that because it doesn't, well, this is an app panel, it doesn't necessarily make sense for all businesses. And you need to say, okay, I'm going to go into app because it makes sense for my business, not just necessarily to go into app. It's innovation for innovation's sake. There's conflicting points of view on that. But for us, the reason app is so centric to our business and why I say it's Rue and not app or mobile or desktop or tablet is because it enhances the experience. We looked at our customer lifecycle journey and said, if people are away from their computers at 11 a.m. when our brands open, how are we going to get them to still be able to shop under the table, at the beach, while they're waiting for their kids to be picked up from daycare? All of those points in time, those situational points, really helped our app sort of explode because it filled that need organically. And so what we've done is we've said, throughout our customer life cycle, we want to make sure that any one of you can experience Rue on the device you want and app versus web in any way that you want in a consistent experience. So seamless shopping. So if you add something to your cart on your iPhone, you're going to see it on your desktop. You're going to see it on your apps. You're going to see it across the board. So really making sure that you have seamless experiences and creating those experiences and really looking at behavioral analytics to say, all right, where are those gaps that we really need to find, whether it be a technology or a communication that will really send the customer through that life cycle as quickly as possible, both from a brand perspective and also from a consumer perspective. I don't want you to have to learn something new about how to get through our life cycle with every touch point. And as a result of those actions, it's really become Rue and not the platform by which you access Rue on.
Feng, does context, location, timeliness, does that have any sort of play into how Karmaloop and how Under approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Gabby and like Rue, we have a flash sale site division which operates very similarly. You know, we drop our sales every day at noon and then some more nightly drops in the evening around 6 p.m. I think one of the things that we know for sure by looking at the data and analytics is that, you know, our customers who are on the app are actually more valuable to us. They're more profitable in many ways, whether that's because they have these devices or because they're on the go. You know, they're not necessarily sitting there looking for, you know, to fill their carts like, you know, with millions of products and browse through them. They know what they want. They can use it, they can add it, and they can just purchase, at that immediate point, and we see, somewhat lower promotional usage in some ways. They're there for the hottest deals and for the hottest product. And so for us, the time and the convenience factor is something that we loop in very closely with our marketing. We send push notifications like many applications out there do, and we want to do that behaviorally. So we're working with a partner that knows when you're going to be on your app during certain hours. We send that not just always at 6 p.m. on the dot, but maybe over the range of 4 hours or over the course of 24 hours to reach you when you're most often on the app. Other things that we do that really take into the context of when you're on apps and when you're more on the go is we offer exclusive sales events, for example, mobile exclusives that we do during certain times in the week when we know people tend to be on their phones more, for example, the weekend. So we really time and think about when people are in front of certain types of platforms and offer them incentives to even go to those even more and give them reasons to engage with us during those times.
Awesome. I think the thing that I get particularly jazzed about when it comes to apps in the world of the app is that, as we all know, we're all digital marketing professionals. The transition of the data landscape, right, is drastically moving a lot of decisions and infrastructure costs and data retention, needs to a lot of different ways. And the app is uniquely positioned to be incredibly central to that new age data gathering for the purposes of whether it's cross-screen retargeting, whether it's app-centric marketing and optimization. I'd love to throw it out to the three of you, and feel free whoever wants to take it. What are the methodologies, the tagging procedures that you take into consideration for your business that you think would be helpful for people to know? I mean, how do you approach the world of data gathering as it associates with the app?
I'll jump in. We actually, a huge part of the app for us is the fact that it's a data gathering mechanism. Basically, there are three sort of broad categories of metrics that we capture through the app. One is transactional, which are the ones I was referring to earlier. So that's card spend. So every week we're looking at overall spend, Dunkin card spend overall, which includes plastic and virtual, and then virtual card spend, which is specifically the mobile app. So that's the first broad bucket. The second is in-app behavior. So one of the things that we're tracking all the time is navigational behaviors. Where are people going in the app? And when it comes to, for example, loyalty registration, people who are beginning to register for the loyalty program, where, if at all, they're dropping off, so that we can improve that registration process. And then the last category is the media tracking, which is what we do through the SDK tags. We do use SDK tags for that second group of metrics as well in some instances, but the primary value add that the SDK tags provide is it allows us to correlate in-app behavior with media source. So one of the things that we're able to do, and one of the things that we've developed in conjunction with our agency and actually with Fiksu, is to develop a sort of a value algorithm that we assign to all of our app users. So for example, you can download the Dunkin app and use it anonymously. You can use it for store locator. You can use it to research product information. You can even send someone an M-gift or purchase a virtual card anonymously and spend as an anonymous person. Obviously, what we want you to do is to purchase a virtual card and register, so we know that you're registered and in the loyalty program. And so we are able to ascribe a sort of a value based upon people who just use the app for branding purposes, which has value, brand building value, but people who are using the app for transactional purposes, who are actually coming to the store, spending, reloading, and spending again, giving M gifts, et cetera. Those are the people that are hitting the bottom line, and we're able to correlate those behaviors with media source and sort of optimize our media strategy for driving downloads. And now it's also driving loyalty registrations. So it is a wealth of data, and it falls into a lot of different categories. And one of the things that we've been working on, because the landscape is maturing for us, we're coming upon the 2-year anniversary of having launched our app, is, I was explaining to these guys when we were talking in the hallway, is in the early days, we were pulling the data from all of these, our analysts were actually pulling them from these 10 different sources to produce the reporting. We've been working with our business intelligence team and with our agencies and our partners to sort of streamline that so that it's a little bit, we've built some custom dashboards, so it makes it a little bit easier for non-analyst types like myself to be able to produce reporting at the push of a button. So, it's an ongoing process. You're never in the end state, but the data obviously actually is a huge part, especially now that we're in a loyalty environment, a massive, part of why we use an app.
Are you guys using this data for cross-stream, for in-app targeting? Does it matter if it's iOS, Android? I mean, how are you looking to approach all the different platforms that are associated with the app and the app ecosystem?
Yeah, I would just add to that by saying I think one of the things that I think we sometimes fall into is thinking about desktop users and app users and mobile web users or whatnot. And I think the way that we're evolving in terms of our thinking is that it's all one user at the end of the day. And how they're accessing you should be a seamless experience across whatever platform they choose. So for us, it's about identifying those users, understanding their web behaviors as well as their app behaviors, and then targeting them on which platform makes most sense at what point in time. So I think that it's much more of a customer-centric view. And then there's challenges in terms of the data collection and making sure we're marketing to them in the right way. But certainly that is the objective. More than ever when we work with agencies or partners, we're looking as the unique identifier is the customer. And we want to figure out what are the devices they're using, and if they happen to log in on their friend's phone, like how does that affect it? Does it throw off the data? And it's I think it's still sort of a little nebulous out there in terms of how to do all this cross-device tracking. It's not perfect, and I think we're actually living through how to retarget, how to look at cross-device. There's these different techniques that different companies have come up with to do it, and I would say none of them are perfect right now, and I think it's really interesting and exciting to be on the threshold of that and testing into it, And you just got to put yourself in the feet of a consumer and think, okay, well, we want to talk to them this way. We don't want to be too annoying. We don't want to be too stalkerish. But, we're clearly collecting all this information, and we want to be able to use it in the most productive and efficient way.
Awesome. Well, obviously, earnings reports and, being the end of being different, a different part of the quarter where people are beginning to announce different earnings. We saw Facebook earnings yesterday and the percentage of their business on the media side that's now related to mobile apps. Are you guys utilizing any of this first-party data that you gather through the app to then go ahead and market back onto these other platforms, right? But in the way that you're not having to leverage third-party information that comes through, it's your own data that you're able to go out, segment, and then target those users on these big platforms like Google, Twitter, Facebook, potentially Amazon. How are you incorporating any of that first-party play back into those types of platforms, or are you not? Because I always think that's interesting too if you opt not to take that tack.
So in terms of how we're retargeting people based on data that we collect, first and foremost, we are focused on the app itself before third parties. Not saying that we're not doing third-party stuff or looking at it, but again, we did just launch a new loyalty program, and one of the things I actually didn't mention in conjunction with that is that we also push out offers via the app. And we've actually been doing that since the beginning, but up until the launch of the loyalty program, the offers were solely location-based. And one of the unique things about Dunkin versus my colleagues up here is that we're a virtually 100% franchised brand. And so we have to think about that in terms of how we market to our folks. So virtually all of the offers that we push out are local in nature. They're DMA specific versus national. We don't have very many national offers. And so we're able to do that for those people who, when they download the app, choose to make their location known. We're able to push out location-based offers. Now that we've integrated with the loyalty platform, we can, in addition to the location offers, also push out offers based on behavior, purchase behavior. So those things can include time of day, market basket data. So for example, if we notice that Amy only ever comes in the morning and buys a coffee and a muffin, she might do it every day, but that's all she ever does, then she's a ripe target for us to send, say, a PM sandwich coupon to. So those are the sorts of things that we're able to do in the app. In terms of third parties, we are looking at third parties. We have done some really interesting, we did an interesting market test in Rhode Island in fourth quarter last year, where we worked with a Boston-based partner to do an ad network offer campaign, where we were able to, through their unique geofencing platform, target folks who were going to our competitors. And we set up the rules for who those were in the Rhode Island test, and it was Starbucks, McDonald's, and Cumberland Farms. Those those rules could be determined by market. We could decide that the target that we were looking at was, say, college students or millennials or whatever it might be. In that instance, the strategy was competitive blunting, but we did work with a third party to do that, and that offer was pushed through their platform. So we're trying to innovate, but we are focused on ourselves first, especially since the technology, 2 years in, always adding to it, is still relatively new.
I'll just add to that by saying, I think on our app at least, and I think on the Rue app as well, we've got like Facebook sign-in, we've got various types of sign-in. So whether you're on e-commerce or on app, I think having some of those social plugins definitely helps in terms of having to remember your password or username or creating a new set of credentials. So I think that type of integration is very helpful for our demographic, which is 16 to 24-year-old males primarily who are on all these social platforms. And I would say one other thing that we integrate with is on the payment side as well. So integrating into PayPal, which has been with us for many, many years. And then we integrate a Google Wallet this past holiday as well. So some of those things, I think, in terms of sharing with third parties just helps, in terms of building your brands and building more accessibility if they're already on those platforms, and just makes it easier for them to engage with your app.
Awesome. What's interesting, right, in to look at the three companies here, I mean, you have a brick and mortar entity, and then you have, digital commerce. And we touched on it briefly, and I want to expand upon it a little bit more because it's just such a hot topic in the ad tech ecosystem right now, is the idea of cross-channel, right? Everybody, wants to sell a solution that can do, web to app, app to web, mobile web to the desktop web. And there's holes in all the solutions that are out there. I don't think there's one great solution, but the one thing that I'd love to talk about and kind of hear what you guys have to say is the individual channel, the customer mindset by individual channel. Is that something that you consider now and you have to look at for the foreseeable future, or is it that you want to look at a comprehensive customer mindset regardless of how they interact with your brand, right? Regardless if they're shopping on the Rue iPad app or the desktop, or if they're headed in store and they're waiting in line versus being at their office thinking about going up for a cup of coffee. Is it an individual siloed channel where mobile, the mobile app, the mobile kind of mindset is different than the user on other platforms? Do you silo it that way, or is it all about the kind of the comprehensive approach? How do you take that?
So at Rue, we have iOS apps, Android apps. We have a tablet web, we have a mobile web, and we have a desktop website. I would say what we're trying to do is create the lowest cognitive burden on the user. We're not without challenges, but we require people to log in to see our content, our sales. So that really helps us with the cross-channel experience. And what we're trying to do is make the experience better for you and different for you. So it's really right time, right message, right experience, right person, right channel. And the way that we do that is we don't simply take our desktop site and put it onto our apps. And that's why I started by saying that we have all those platforms and we invest in them in the way that I indicated, that we've broken them out. And the reason for that is when you're on your phone, I reach for my phone as soon as I wake up. I play Candy Crush on the elliptical. I'm probably going to fall off one day. And I, snack on it before I go to sleep. I use it in all different contexts, but my attention span is limited. You have only a few seconds to grab my attention, and I need to be able to do whatever I want to do in a minute or less, whether that be look at a product or check out. So what we do is we really take form factor into consideration in new feature sets. Think about Uber. If you want to add a new credit card, you take a photo of your credit card. Or the Bank of America example with the checks. Now you don't have to go there anymore because they gave you this easy tool that is really specific to that form factor. Then when it comes to tablets, for us, and I'm sure for most of you, you sort of see the tablet maybe in the morning and then just spike as the night goes on. And there's sort of an unlimited time frame with tablets. So yes, you want to get them through whatever experience they want to get through as quickly as possible. For us, it's the checkout flow or the browse flow if they want to just purchase one product, but you also have the opportunity to give them content on that device because they're not as time crunched. And it allows you to sort of give an additional value to your users through context and through form factor. And really giving them a reason to go to all of those different form factors because that's important. I mean, I think we've all said we see increase in value when you're moving from channel to channel. And that is the nature of how we consume information now. We start an experience on a smartphone and ended on the computer, started on the computer and ended on the smartphone or tablet. And really looking at those journeys and looking at the different touch points throughout the day that you could optimize for your user base is really important.
Awesome. How about from an affinity loyalty standpoint? Is the app powerful in that mechanism? Is it something that you're focused on, or is it more about just transaction and information gathering?
Yeah, I would say that we see the way that we market on the app as very much a re-engagement channel. I mean, we do acquisition on it. Obviously, we drive new downloads, we drive new member registrations, but the way that we engage and see in terms of the repeat user, repeat visits to new visits, there's so many more repeat visits if you're just looking at it from a pure web analytics point of view, just because it's so much more addictive. It's so much easier to flip to it at any point, and take a look, put it down, and come back. So, sort of that leverage ratio of how many new people you're getting for every session is very different on a mobile experience than it is on a desktop experience. So I think for us, what's really important is, those re-engagement metrics. Is it the push notifications and making sure those are coming at the right place, the right time, the right frequency? And then as we move into retargeting and thinking about that, we know you've done some specific actions on the app. How do we talk to you thereafter? Do we talk to you about it on Facebook? Do we talk to you about it in another app? Maybe you'll see a little floating pair of sneakers somewhere else. Do we know that you did this, you added something to cart, and if you happen to be logged in, do we try and retarget you with, an email down the line with personalized recommendations, things of that nature. So we definitely see, certain behaviors being very directly, I think, impactful. And then other things which are just more soft indications of what type of user you are and how we can re-engage with you in a different manner. And I would say the last part is it's not always towards conversion. I mean, conversion is the ultimate goal in revenue, obviously. But I think making sure that we're smart with you. You haven't been in the app in 14 days or something. We want to send you something else. Hey, what's going on? Or, thinking about welcome flows. Many of us have that for emails or for other things. Hey, welcome to Rue. Welcome to Karmaloop. This is what we're about. This is what, the experience will be. A couple of days down the line, we send you a different set of messages that, hey, have you checked out this feature? Do you know how to use the app? Here's some different features and things that you can look forward to. So there's this type of re-engagement and giving them a little bit more content. I think, one of the dreams that we have for the app, in how many months to come, I'm not sure exactly for the roadmap, but, really creating much more of a social engagement platform as well. We have this great feature on Plunder called Show Off, which is web-based right now, but the thing that we realized is this was developed back in 2010, 2011 when we didn't have the apps. And now it's like you take a picture of what you're wearing, you want to show off to your friends, you want your friends to engage with it. It was a great idea, but it doesn't work for desktop because you're clearly taking the photo with your phone, you're sending it to, uploading, and then it's that's way too many steps. The real concept and what the real value is, it clearly should be something on the app, and that's not something that was developed originally in, 2012, but, moving forward, it's definitely about what behaviors and what things are you doing already on your phone that can integrate into the shopping experience that's much more of a community and member-based ideology.
As you mentioned, we are a bricks and mortar business at the core. There is a small slice of our business that's e-commerce. You can actually go to our website and buy Dunkin swag or order packaged coffee to be delivered. But really at our core, it's driving people to the bricks and mortar store to spend. And so from a loyalty perspective, we take more of a holistic view. Web is available for those people who choose to manage their accounts via the web, and of course the mobile app for those who are mobilely able to join that way. But at the end of the day, we view the loyalty program as a mobile program. I think the desire is to really get people to sign up for the program through the app. That's the end goal. I think we'll probably, the Dunkin target is broad, and it includes a wide swath of America and a wide age range as well. So I don't foresee the old school way of signing up for loyalty via the browser going away anytime soon, or being able to use the plastic card. One thing I didn't actually mention earlier is in order to earn points for the loyalty program, you need to use the Dunkin card. It's not a tender agnostic program. So either you can use the plastic card and register it via the website, or you can purchase a virtual card or add a plastic card to the mobile app and earn that way. But really, the desire is to manage the whole thing from a mobile perspective. I mean, whereas up until we launched the loyalty program, it was all about driving app downloads. Now it's a two-step call to action. It's download the app and sign up for the loyalty program. If you just do the first, that's okay, but we really want you to do both.
So when it comes to app discovery, right, based upon all the different business propositions that the app's obviously bringing, the data gathering points, is it about volume? Is it about cost per install? Is it about optimizing on something bigger than that? Is it a multitude of metrics that you have to look at? If it's core to the business, how do you approach the discovery and kind of the management of actually getting that app on devices?
You mentioned something previously that I think is important, and it's really, we're in this world where if most of your people engage in store or online on the desktop, how do you sort of connect those web experiences and the device experiences? Because you don't want to send an email that says download the app and people open it on their desktop and then they get that weird, do you want to launch iTunes with like 100 string of characters after it, because it feels like it's an error. So really thinking about that experience and feeding information in the right way. We've had a lot of success with the download the app modal and optimizing that for screen size, but really thinking about how to connect the dots in a way that you don't cause users to abandon the experience. If you sent me that email, I had a bad experience, I have a negative reaction to a brand, and because we are looking at our apps and our web properties as RU, we don't ever want to give our customers a poor experience. There are things, Expedia is a great example. They do a enter your phone number for a link to install. So making sure that you really connect those experiences and then optimize for them. Put the marketing mix right out in front of people and say these channels are driving the greatest installs, if that's what the ultimate goal is, and invest accordingly. With that said, mobile changes every single day. I'm sure there's something new today. So look at it in shorter stints than you do your larger digital campaigns.
And I think to add to that, I think, in this debate of like installs or quality users, I think you want both. And I would say that the evolution of that sort of comes with the evolution of your company. If you have a startup, the first thing you want to do is just get users and get revenue, right? You're going through this ramp up, and you need to have enough people to then actually say, okay, now we actually have to be profitable and make this work, right? So I think same thing with the apps. If you don't have people using it, you're never going to get quality users. Like, you need to drive volume to then ultimately optimize towards getting, I want the people who actually spend, who engage, and who are going to tell their friends. But you're going to have to go through this ramp-up stage to get there. So I think it's more like of a life cycle play. So, when you're first starting out, yeah, you're going to have to get downloads. You're going to just have to throw some money at it, throw some creative marketing at it, and think about how to just get people to uptake your product, right? And once you get to a certain point, then you want to say, well, now I have enough data, I have enough knowledge of these users. Now I want to optimize towards getting the best users out of them. And once I figured out who are the best users, then I can actually take those qualities and do more smarter install campaigns, because we know certain qualities, these are the ones that are ultimately going to drive better revenue or better profit for us in the end. So I think there needs to be this ramp up stage, which has to be sustained, but you're going to get smarter at it once you figure out who are going to be the valuable users. So I think very practically speaking, we have to keep volume campaigns up because we need to show them all these different touch points, or we have to go outside of our normal marketing mix to say, what are some untapped users that we may not have looked at before, and then optimize towards which ones are ultimately the ones that were useful for us. And I think a lot of that, coming back to sort of the data and the linking and the SDKs, is like trying to figure out how much money they spend. And not every campaign that you're going to pay for is going to give you all that good information. And sometimes you have to take a leap of faith with it. But then other times when you really know, okay, I paid this much for a user or for a download, and then they spent this much, in ultimate like ROI. So we have to optimize towards that. But if we keep optimizing towards that, our installs are going to get more expensive. We're getting more return, but then we're losing this funnel of new users. So there's definitely a balancing act when you have to think about, getting more users and getting really valuable users.
I think we followed a similar pattern to you guys in that when we first launched, it was all about the download. And that was like the magic number that everyone was looking at was, get to X number of downloads, get to Y number of downloads. And it was once we realized that we were achieving a critical mass, we then sort of migrated into this engagement model where we wanted to focus on people who had downloaded the app but who had experienced a certain period of latency. So it was through the SDK tagging that we were able to know, for example, I remember I mentioned the quality scoring earlier. So yeah, we knew who our quality users were. We knew who our users were that weren't necessarily spending but were still using. Well, we were also able to know who had downloaded the app but hadn't opened it in 30 days or 45 days. And so we were able to then go back to through the SDK tagging and the media strategy that we had put together, we're able to hit those individuals up with a different kind of a message to hopefully incent them to use the app. So yeah, it is definitely a maturation and an evolution.
Awesome. So we have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to open it up to Q&A if there was any specific questions.
This question might be a little bit more pertinent to Kevin, but I'd like to hear from everybody. How much of a role does location play in Lifecycle?
So as I mentioned, location is really important to us because of the franchise model. I mean, we're all about the DMAs. I happen to work at the national office, and so the strategies that I work on are of national in nature, but a whole arm of the marketing team is field-based. And it's actually the field folks with whom we work to do the push notifications and the offers, because those are largely location-based. I don't know if that fully answers your question, and that's not going to go away, right? Even though now we do have the ability to target people through push and through offers based on purchase behavior through the loyalty program, location is never going to go away. That's an integral part of the way that Dunkin is because of the franchise model.
Like benchmarks? Yeah. I imagine the benchmarks are probably different for different types of businesses. Exactly. I think internally, yeah. Right, we have developed thresholds. We know what a good cost per install is. So I'll work with my account managers and be like, that looks a little high, or we can run things ourselves and be like, okay, this is what it could get, and we'll run through different networks. So we have internal benchmarks, we have industry benchmarks. For us and for our demographic, we generally perform better than industry, just because I think our users, for a number of reasons, but our users are more app heavy, like they like those sort of things. And then more internally, in terms of proving out that ROI off of a initial, sort of upfront investment, that's something that we look at in concert with the rest of our marketing channels too. Because we sort of look at it as a retention channel as well, and we have to loop that back into, we send an email, we do other types of re-engagements. How does this stack up against that? And because we are getting better at tracking the exact revenue that comes off of specific initiatives we do perform, we can measure that. So I don't have any exact benchmarks, but I think it's very much like, because we were web-based before, we have like internal hurdle rates that we want to cross. And then obviously with app, we can sort of, benchmark how this performs versus that.
So we'll go right in the back.
Yeah, I was wondering if you went through the process of developing personas and journey maps and where the mobile experience fit into that, and if you did, how many personas do you have in your company? If you can talk about that.
I would say that we journey map. And what we're really trying to do right now is really, I guess it really depends on what your metrics are. And if you're looking to activate someone, if that's your goal, you want to look at what path got them to activate at the highest rate and with the greatest return long term. So I think we're constantly testing, and we're constantly iterating based on those tests and testing the winners. I would say cohorts are important, and I think personas are important for user-based models like ours. It's hard to generalize it, but cohorts of users being their 1 screen, 2 screen, 3 screen, and then overlaying whatever persona you use for the rest of your business, because you don't want to think about people differently. You'll think about the way that they engage differently. But I think really looking at their behavior, where they visit and where they purchase, will sort of create its own set of personas or cohorts. It's not exactly the response we're looking for.
Okay, we probably have time for one more question. Yes.
Yeah, maybe it's a follow-up on a persona thing, but when you have your marketing campaign, do you batch? In other words, you're finding from the database what you want, how you want it to be customized, for that those individuals, or is there a real-time component to this? Everybody's looking at stuff based on they come in, you can add some based on what data you have on them, and as you learn more about them, be able to treat them differently on a one-to-one basis in real time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, one of the partners we use is Batches Beeper tags them in real time. So we have one where we use behavior-based segmentation. So we'll know when someone comes in the door, if they're a newbie, they just downloaded the app, whether they become engaged, basically if they re-engage anytime in the 14 days, and then if they start dropping off. So are they dormant or are they passerbys? So we have some in which we, it's live. It's just based on how you're behaving with it. We've got like a tag in the app, and it knows whether or not you've opened it and what behaviors you've taken. So in some senses, yes, and some of our behavior-based, retention metrics such as push are triggered off of those. So we'll send to people who are more engaged, and then we won't send as often to people who are less engaged.
How many metrics do you have to measure that first engagement? What do you look at? In other words, you just said that their first time, they just dropped off. Are there other factors that you look into to customize that experience further? Do you have like a learning process, like that your algorithm learns as the user engages you? You have to sit back and say, I'm going to do a campaign that's going to be perfect for these kind of people, and go find those people who are good at that.
I would say in an ideal world, yes, but I think with current technology constraints, no. I think right now what we do specifically at Karmaloop is we base it off of their app behavior. And then because this is specifically towards push and sort of things like that, we know if they're engaging with the app or not. Doesn't mean that they're not engaging with the web. So some of it unfortunately is still siloed, but maybe that's okay for the moment being.
Yeah, I think it's also dependent upon technology companies, and it's dependent upon the advertiser. I mean, if you look at some of the large-scale game developers, they might tag hundreds of different little nuances that happen within the app to build these different segments out of. And they're ingesting a lot more of that information in real time because it's just this ongoing kind of snacking of the app experience versus maybe you might get with more of a retail-centric. But the onus is more on the developer in that case, but it's also the capacity of the technology provider that you're also working with. So that's it for time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks especially to the panelists for taking the time to be here. Awesome.